Hey, great job on making it this far. And I know we've gotten into some fairly complex stuff where we're looping through and we've created a bunch of promises, but it is important to understand how they all work and how it all can fit together and how you can continuously build out an object using promises until you reach the final result, and then finally breaking out of the promise with a resolve and sending that information back where you can use it and output it on the page. So within the output area, we can loop through and we can output some more information that's available on the output. So instead of outputting each individual item, we might want to list out how many results that were found and then output that as kind of one chunk. So we've lost that and we had that originally. So let's build that and add that back into the output planets. And instead of data count, it's going to be data length because it's an array object. And this can also sit within an H1 if we want to. So if we want to use that as inner HTML, we could do that as well. So inner HTML. So this will give us the ability to add some HTML tags. So H1, close the H1, open the H1, close the H1. So now we see that we get all of the results. We get 61 results found, and we get a listing of all the results. The other thing too that we can check to see, and we can check to see if there is a value for item film's length. So if it's greater than 0, then we do all of this stuff where we create the unordered list. And if it's not greater than 0, then we're just going to say that no planets. So we can add in another element there. We can create a text node. So text, or maybe we'll want to create a span. So let's create the span. So document, create element, and let's create a span. So span is what we want to create. And then let's list out how many planets found, or how many films found. Then we've got our text content within the span. We use an array template again, so the backticks. That's that little key beside the 1 on your keyboard above the tab. And then here we can list out the item films length, films found. And I gotta update that backtick. And then add in the span to the page as well. So div append child, and we can append the child of the span that we just created. So now when we press C, it'll show us how many films are in each one. And it's adding it in here that there's 0 films found. So maybe what we want to do is we want to add this anyway and skip the else. So that's another option. So it's up to you how you really want to structure this. So now it'll always add in how many films found. So we see how many films found. And if it's got 0 films found, then it just doesn't have anything to list out in the unordered list. And of course, you could structure this and style this as needed. The nice thing about promises is that they also have catch. And catch deals with rejected cases only. It behaves the same as calling promise type then, and in fact calling catch. So basically what it does is it allows you to catch any errors. So this allows you to throw an error, and then the catch will pick up that error. So if you do throw, this will add it into catch, and you're going to see the output. So you get that uh-oh there. So let's add that into our project as well. So if we do throw any errors, or if we have any issues, we can always catch any of the errors that are being output. So we've got it under fetch all, where we're fetching all of that information. And because this is a promise, we can add in that catch that's going to catch any errors. At the Mozilla Developer Network, we can grab that catch, and this will allow us to catch any issues that happen with the promise. You can also assign a variable to it and then use the catch on the variable. So either way, or you could just chain it together just like this. So adding that in and refreshing and press me, we're not going to see any errors because of course we didn't throw any errors. So we need to throw an error. So if we add in throw anywhere along the way, and if we do something like uh-oh, we refresh and we press me, you see uh-oh comes. This is also where things get fairly complex, because if we throw inside of the fetch, then that's going to be in regards to the fetch. So it's not going to be within this error, it's going to be within this one. So that means that we need to do a catch on the fetch as well. So we can add that down here within fetch and catch the error there. So you need to make sure that each one of these promises that's going to have their own layer of throwing errors. So we can throw an error on this promise, but if we keep the throw inside of this fetch, then it's going to throw it on this error. So you got to keep that in mind as well when you are creating these errors, that you want to have the errors that are specific within the right promises. So in this case, because we do have promises inside of promises, we have some flexibility where we can add those errors, and also fetch, also keeping in mind that this is a promise, so that works the same way. So we've got a then and a catch, and that's why we're able to catch errors on that one as well. So you can have a number of different places where you can add in the catch. So we can also have the catch sitting on that main promise. Want to do that? Or we'll throw it down here. So either one is fine. You can add it in either one of those functions, or you can add it in both so you have multiple catches or multiple opportunities. So let's add in a way to catch an error, so something that's more legitimate, and we can check to if we didn't get the right connection. So we see that before we send the response data, if I console log out the response information, we're going to get a status code. So way up here at the top, we get a status. So we get a bunch of information, and status 200 means that we connected properly. So we can maybe do a condition here to check to see if response status, that response object status, is equal to 200. And if it is, then it's good. So if it's not equal to 200, then it's bad. For now, we'll just change it to not equal to 400 or 404. And this is where we can throw that error. So the same way that we did the promise here, the catch, as well as throwing the error here, we can do the same thing. And for now, I'll just copy it and say uh-oh. So now we're getting uh-oh throw-in. So what happens here is it comes in, does the fetch, and we get the console message, so the console of the response, and it checks to see if the response is not equal to 404, and we actually ideally want it to be equal to 200, but in this case, we want to throw the error. We want to have a legitimate place to have the error. So let's update this to 200, and this is how you can use catch in order to catch any issues that you might have. So now if I refresh, everything should be working properly because the URL is correct, and it's outputting on the page. So those are some minor adjustments that you can make and add in catch in order to catch any errors that might be coming up within the promises. And because the project has multiple promises with the fetch and the promise, you might want to practice with the catch just on its own with just the one promise, or with the one fetch, and then having the catch there if you're throwing any errors. And then add in the more complex version into the project once you're more familiar with it. So go ahead and try it out within your project. And coming up next, we'll do a quick overview of the code that we've gone over in the earlier lessons.